Want to take us live, and there we go. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight for our Prescott Town Council meeting for Monday, December 6, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we will begin this meeting acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples. In particular, we'd like to acknowledge this evening the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Oneida and Haudenosaunee peoples. Item 2 tonight, as always, is the approval of the agenda. Recommendation reads that the agenda for the council meeting of December 6, 2021 be approved as presented. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Ostrander. Any discussion on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations from members of council this evening? Seeing none. So tonight we're moving on to presentations under item 4, and we do have 2 presentations tonight, both regarding community grants. And we'll start off with 4.1, our South Grenville Food Bank, and I'd like to welcome Bonnie Pigeon to the meeting this evening. Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you. This is my first council meeting in Zoom. This is interesting, different for sure. I dressed up anyways. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to express my appreciation for all the ongoing support we receive each year from the town of Prescott. I would like to acknowledge my volunteers. Before plexiglasses and masks and any signs of vaccines were on the horizon, our volunteers opened their hearts and kept the doors open. We left no one hungry in Prescott, putting the citizens first before their own safety. I thank them and are so proud to work with such great volunteers. Before the pandemic, we served about 100 people per week in Prescott alone. Now we are seeing 163 on average per week, and nearly 30% are children. No child should go hungry. I've requested an additional $7,000 to help stock our shelves, and the funding will be spent shopping in local shops in our community. We added several new food programs to our list of services we offer. A delivery service for the most vulnerable in our community with limitation access to food and going to the food bank. We delivered to nearly 30 households last month. One of our newest pilot projects that I'm very proud of is called the Lunch Kit Program. This project assists people starting a new job with the essential items that they will need for lunches. The food bank works closely with CSC Consulting to get our referrals of people that have started new positions. This program runs up to 3 weeks and allowing people to have food in their cupboards before their first paycheck. That way, hopefully, they will be more successful in obtaining full employment. We expanded our regular programs like our food hamper program and our kids snack packs. We have continued to add more fresh and protein items. We empower our clients to pick their own food. We work off a point system. The food supply is meant to last up to 7 to 10 days. In closing, with the additional funding we requested from the town of Prescott, we can assure we will have the essential items we need. I know the deadline is short for the funding, which I believe is December 31st, 2021, that it needs to be spent. We have a plan to spend it. The sooner we know that we are successful or not, the quicker we can order the food. Feed Ontario just released its hunger report. 592,308 individuals access food banks in Ontario in 2020 and 2021. Those are astonishing numbers. If you are interested in reading the full report, please let me know and I will send it to you a copy. I thank you for taking the time tonight to hear my plea for more money to make sure that there is enough food for access for people in our community. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bonnie. We'll open it up for comments, questions, and what I'd like to proceed with this tonight, because there's obviously a a bit of a sense of urgency for the request, but if we could just ask questions right now and both presenters, and then bring it back under new business for full deliberation on what, if any, direction we're going to take this evening regarding both requests. Give us a few minutes to just sort of digest all the information, and then we'll bring it back later in this meeting. If everyone's okay with that, I think that's probably the best procedural way to do it. But for questions right now, anything from for Bonnie tonight from members of council? Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Bonnie, you mentioned that you were delivering 100, or you had 100 customers in Prescott, and then you said 165, but what wasn't clear, at least to me, was that 165 in Prescott or 165 total?
Thank you very much. The 100 we served was before the pandemic, before COVID. And just several weeks ago, 163 people walked in our door in 1 week in Prescott alone. So we're up to 163 people needing access at the Prescott Legion. I have a feeling that doesn't quite answer the question.
No, the question that I had was that 165 people, are all those people from Prescott, or are we looking at Augusta as well?
We do serve all of those areas, but the statistics I brought tonight is Prescott only. So
Okay.
The 163 people were from Prescott only.
Thank you very much.
Bonnie, is that Prescott in terms of street addresses in town, or is that K0E1T0 postal code? Just a question of clarification we've asked in the past, because the numbers are pretty strong from Prescott alone, as I read in your proposal, and just that they seem quite high.
Yes, it is Prescott alone. Even though Augusta does have a KOE1TO address, we do look at the addresses.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, questions? Councillor Jansman, did I see your hand up? Councillor Jansman, and then Councillor Shankar, please.
Hi, Bonnie. Thank you so much for your presentation and for everything you and your staff and volunteers do. Are you also presenting to Edwardsburg Cardinal and Augusta requesting extra funds?
I have not been as successful in those places. I did not see extra funding available in Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal. As a matter of fact, we did not receive any funding this year from Augusta. For our latest, you know, how the town gives out money, we did not receive any from them. And we received less than normal from Edwardsburg Cardinal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Bonnie. Councillor Shankar, please.
Yes, thank you, Bonnie. You know I love and appreciate you, and I think you do great work, and it's a well-needed service. One thing you did say was you want to stock the shelves. Are you saying that your shelves are limited these days, or they're lacking? And with Christmas coming and winter coming, you want to set it up for that? Is that what you mean?
Actually, I would not say our shelves are empty, because I would not allow that to happen, because I'm always working ahead. But winter has already come and has taken a toll. And we feel by January, we will be lacking essential items that we need by January.
Okay. And one more thing. How did you come about with the number 7,000?
Well, that was a difficult decision to make, but I had written this particular grant to encompass fresh proteins like good like pork chops or hamburger or things like that, and canned goods. So I encompassed a little bit more than just the normally I would say high protein and fresh. This time I encompass things like wanting to purchase juice and wanting to purchase hamburger helper, and believe it or not, they love the sandwich mix and those other essential items that'll help keep our stock properly, including the fresh. And
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gory. Thanks, Bonnie. Any other comments, questions for Bonnie tonight? Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you again, Mayor Todd. Obviously, there's an increasing need in Prescott, and I don't think there's any doubt that we should probably feel the need to help out with that. But going back to somebody else's question and the answer to it, do you, Bonnie, have any figures for us about people from Edwardsburg and Cardinal that are accessing the Prescott and area food bank? Is there any numbers there that you can give us?
Yes, I believe I do. Just where am I here? Okay, so of course, Cardinal is the people who access the Cardinal Food Bank. We had 53 people access the Cardinal Food Bank in the month of November. And we had 9 access the Spencerville Food Bank.
And is there anybody
So
from
those are-
Cardinal that's accessing the Prescott one?
No, they have to go to their territory. Augusta does come to Prescott, but that number is around 25.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much to both of you for the question and the answer. Anything else from members of council tonight for Bonnie? Okay, I think we're pretty good. I've got one myself, and Bonnie, you know, I always fully support the food bank, and we never say no, and I'm sure we're not going to say no tonight. But the one comment that I do have is just on your overall, you know, your revenue for 2020, and you know. And I get that it's going to be an awful tough winter. I think it's going to be a tough next year, and who knows what with the inflationary pressures being what they are. But you've been pretty healthy for your revenue through 2020, and that's the only comment I would make. I mean, 312,000 in donations. Total revenue before 23 582. I mean, that's obviously you got expenses against that, but even after the expenditures, you're still sitting with some pretty healthy amount of money in the bank. So I just wondered if you wanted to comment on that as well. And because we're always, as much as the food bank is incredibly valuable, and we all greatly value all the fantastic work you do, we've got to make a certain amount of budgetary commitment here, go a long way with a lot of groups in the area. So I just wondered if you wanted to comment on that. That was the one thing that kind of stuck out to me on the statement of operations.
Thank you so much, Brett, for bringing that up. We, in 2020 was exceptional, and even parts of 2021 have been exceptional. So I'm kind of a bit of a hound dog when it comes to any funding opportunity. And some of that money you'll notice was grant money, some for food, but we also received $36,000 to get our generator. This generator gives us an opportunity to stay open, but it also gives us an opportunity to have a conversation in the new year about being part of the emergency plan. We lose power, we're going to be your hub. We're going to be able to keep our fridge and freezers going. And then some of that money also was for food through the United Counties funding and through Feeding Possibilities and some other, we hired someone to clean through Career Services. That money was also funded through grants. So there has been a lot of grants. We did find there was a huge increase, and I'm assuming a lot of it's probably a one-off in 2020, where we had that massive food drive and we had lots of people giving e-transfers and stuff to help right away. So there was an increase in individual, but a lot of the other ones was grant focused. And like I said, we got the generator and some other big ticket items. Does that kind of answer it?
No, that does make it clearer. And I do know, because we talked a couple of times about the funding from the province available through Social Services, United Counties. And I know you have applied for some of that. There was more money there available as well. And I know the Brockville area food banks received quite a bit of funding as well. And the only thing I would suggest is just make sure you go after every cent you can of that. Simply because the other ones were, and I know they received quite a bit more in certain areas, and I know the great work that you do down here as well, and you certainly deserve that same level of funding. But so I think the 2021 numbers are probably going to be fairly good as well, given what the province has put out there through the counties and and so forth. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. And the other thing, I guess, is a couple people have mentioned it, and it's come up in the past, is just the level of service that's provided to Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Augusta as well, because a lot of the time we do wind up sort of on the hook and subsidizing services for residents in the townships. And well, we don't want to be miserly about that. There's got to be a sense of fairness. So it would be nice to see a little more on what Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Augusta are paying in terms of what their overall the usage is, and to see that there's some sort of balance there. Just because we have to watch the bottom line, and we certainly can't afford to subsidize services for 3 municipalities. That's the only thing we're always bringing that up. Though now, don't feel that's just on you. We mentioned that to everyone in the community grants discussions. So any other comments for Bonnie tonight for Let Her Go? Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and thank you, Bonnie, for everything that you do for our community and the surrounding. I think it's important maybe to note tonight, what is the best way and how can people donate towards the food bank?
Oh, that's a really nice
Good
question.
point.
Definitely, we find that if people give financial, we can buy better choices. People don't always know what we need, and they'll think, oh, tomato soup, they need it, but they don't know that maybe we have 100 already in stock, where we really need money to go and get some fresh. So we need some money to buy. We've been giving our clients pork chops. Can you imagine? Because we've had some money from United County. So it's not just hamburger they're getting an actual another meat, which is incredible. So there's always two ways. One is definitely feel free to buy what you think we will need, or ask maybe, or give us a financial donation, and we can buy the fresh and the frozen or the high proteins. Like I said before, I don't want to see any child go hungry. And Brad, I will work very hard in 2022 in building a better relationship with the other townships. Perhaps my friendly face needs to be there maybe more often.
Thanks, Bonnie. Never want to hold your feet to the fire on any of this, because we know how much great work you do. It's just at the end of the day, we've just got to be accountable for our own residents. And but thanks a lot for that. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Bonnie. Over the last number of years, you've had a promotion at Coast Radio when they were in downtown. And I know that you raised a lot of cash during those online events. Have you found any offsetting promotions this year?
This year, we were extremely lucky with the Smile program. The the Radiothon, and I thought it was quite fitting, did a beautiful job with the Kinsmen, and we were very proud to see that. But we found the Smile program this year was very supportive, and we did extremely well.
Thank you.
So that offset. We've missed the radio station, to be honest with you. We wish they were still downtown. We miss them tremendously.
Absolutely. Any final comments? Last round. I think we're all good. And thanks again, Bonnie. We'll bring this back under new business a little later in the evening, and we'll have an answer for you post haste on this.
And it would be appropriate for me to leave?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or do you want me to stay?
No,
okay.
you'll be
again,
waiting
thank
a while,
you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bonnie.
That's okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate the ongoing support. Bye-bye. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas as well. Take care. Good night. And we do have one more presentation tonight also with regards to a community grant request. That's under 4.2 tonight, and that's Rob Moore representing the Rural Fetal Alcohol Syndrome Support Network. Rob, I see you on the line. Welcome to the meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Mayor. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I see that we might have share screening capability here if council would like to be able to see what I'm speaking to.
Certainly. Mr. Armstrong or Lindsay, whoever's the host.
You should be able to go ahead and share.
There we go.
Okay, so yes, as Mayor Todd was saying, I'm representing the Rural FASD Support Network. Some of our information, one of the things that we're really proud of is we just launched our website here about 2 months ago due to a grant from the municipality of North Grenville. And so if you ever have an opportunity to check out our website, please feel free to do so. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook as well. Just in terms of some of our background, we began in 2017 with 6 families, all of whom had adopted children through child welfare. And it was at that time that we all kind of discovered that our children were also living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And so from there, we started to be able to create some awareness in our communities. We became a nonprofit corporation of 2019. And our corporation does consist solely still of families and individuals living with this disability. We now represent 156 families and 184 children, including 4 families from Prescott right now. Due to the current MCCSS criteria, we do know from research that 4% of our population do live with this disability. And they're also, however, ineligible for developmental services and or community living support. So we are kind of in that gray area that doesn't really fit in any real good category. The research has also demonstrated that 90% of our children will have mental health challenges, as well as 75% of our caregivers will have a mental health breakdown at some point. That's why in 2020, we focused on the Bell Let's Talk application as our initial strategy, and we were successful in garnering that. As I will show you the sign in the back. That was actually done in collaboration with the Children's Mental Health of Leeds Grenville. And Lorena Crosby was a huge advocate on our behalf in having that happen. And so it's been through that grant in the last year and a half now that we've been able to provide private counseling, both for youth with FASD, as well as getting caregivers certified as mental health first aiders. What this essentially means is it enables caregivers to identify very early on people that they're extremely close with. So a family member, whether it's a parent or a child, or someone that's in their immediate family, being able to recognize the signs of when a mental health challenge might be progressing. And so when you can identify those early signs, obviously early intervention is always the best strategy. And they always then have that, go with that individual in helping them secure the public counseling that's available within Leeds Grenville. Our organization also provides system navigation for caregivers, as well as peer facilitated support for both the caregivers and children and youth. In terms of our governance, as I said before, our organizational mentor right now is Children's Mental Health of Leeds Grenville, who serves as the administrator. We do have 10 directors, including one who lives with FASD. H&R Block serves as our bookkeeping organization. And so we do maintain our own banking using the recommendations that have been given to us from our auditor over the last 3 years. Our AGM happens every February, and you can see all of our financial minutes located on our website at all for public perusal. And right now, we are currently in the process of conducting the first environmental scan of FASD services in Ontario. It's never been done before, and we're in the process of doing that right now. And it's being done in the counties of Lanark and Leeds Grenville. And then we expect the report to be published in May of I guess in about 6 months or so, this coming May. In terms of our request, we are, I think the best way I could describe this is we're actually looking for in situ with your staff. And the reason we're looking for that is because we do have also a Trillium Grant application that our expression of interest has been accepted, as well as with the Ontario Brain Science. And we just finished off both applications. They just got submitted here in the last week, and we're expecting to hear in the next couple months whether or not we're securing this funding or not. The key aspect on this is in that Trillium Grant, it's a scale grant over 4 years that's going to enable us to hire 1.5 staff, a program coordinator, as well as a part-time marketing person. And what we're looking to do is right now our in-person peer facilitated support group for caregivers only exists in Smith Falls. And we're looking to expand it into kind of the 4 main corridors of the counties of Lanark and Leeds-Grenville. We've identified at this point, based on partnerships that we have with municipalities and other organizations. In year 2, we would look to expand to Almont. Year 3, we're looking to expand to Kentville. But year 4, we don't really have someone yet. And so that's really, I guess, in a large part of why I'm speaking with you this evening, is we really see that Prescott hub as being the 4th location as really being able to serve all of our families well in terms of our supports. And so the other part that I would bring out as well is we are the organization that has held the only 2 FASD awareness days at Queen's Park. We did our first one in 2019. We did our second one in 2020. And it's been with MPP Clark as our sponsoring MPP in both of those situations. And the environmental scan that we're doing right now, he has specifically requested that he be given monthly updates on how it's progressing. It is something that's very near and dear to him. And so the other one that we're essentially asking is, as part of the environmental scan, we're looking at things such as community engagement. We're looking at potential media partners. We're looking at volunteer opportunities, recreational opportunities for people. And we're not real sure who to talk to in Prescott to get that information. So I guess that's really our main request, is not a monetary one, but more so having a point person out of the town of Prescott that we could continue these conversations with. I would take any questions at this point.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore, for that great presentation this evening. I will open it up for comments, questions from members of council tonight. Councilor McConnell, did you have your hand up a moment ago?
I did, Mayor Todd. Thank you very much.
Please go ahead.
The word environmental gets thrown around all over the place these days, for good or for bad, but I'm unclear as to what an environmental scan is and how it would apply in your particular circumstances. Could you explain that, please?
Absolutely. So there was a research paper done by our federal research organization known as CanFAS that identified for people with FASD to have positive life outcomes, there are 12 sectors where they need to be supported. And so what we're doing is we're looking at those 12 sectors in the counties of Lanark and Leeds-Grenville and determining whether, number one, support exists in those sectors, as well as whether they are FASD informed or not. Those sectors include education, they include housing, they include health, they include physical health, community engagement, as well as obviously 5 others. So from a municipality standpoint, what we're looking at is really in that recreational aspect, as well as that community engagement aspect.
Okay, well explained. It does. It's a separate thing from pollution, from recycling. That's also environment, but you're looking at the environment as it surrounds the person in their daily life or work life or whatever, so to speak. So that's a distinction. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Councilor McConnell. Mr. Moore, Councilor Young, did I see your hand up a moment ago?
Yes, Mayor Todd, thank you. In your current budget right now, Rob, what would be the top 3 or 4 expense items that you deal with?
So our number one is one of the services that we provide is we provide one-on-one peer mentoring for our youth. We know that the teenage years in general can be extremely challenging, and I really don't like to get into the negative statistics related to people with FASD, but the reality is when they're not supported and they don't have good modeling, we know that it's about a quarter of people in jail right now have FASD. Human trafficking is a humongous problem amongst the population of FASD. There's just not the negative life outcomes are really, really, really bad. So what we understand and what we find to be the most important thing is we know when the family unit is always the core. And when the family unit is strong, the individual with FASD will be able to gain positive life outcomes. But they need good modeling is essentially what it is. So our one-on-one peer mentors, that's where most of our money goes right now, is being able to have one of our 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-olds. We have 4 of them right now, and they spend at least an hour per week checking in with all of our different youth and making sure that, you know, they're doing all right and they've got someone good to talk to that's going to tell them the honest truth, and it's not coming from their parents. So it's something that our teenagers listen to them. The second one for us is it's the cost related to being able to bring everybody together on that monthly basis from our support group meetings. We have been able to do it virtually for the last year and a half. In fact, we were doing it virtually even before COVID hit. So most of our costs are associated with IT support, Zoom accounts, being able to ensure that our members have Wi-Fi and laptops to access and so on. So that's really the 3 main areas that we look at.
In terms of some of these children are adopted, and my recollection is that they are supported by the province to a certain age. And then the province kind of, that's it. Am I accurate?
Not really, because what happens is once the adoption process is complete, the child, so Family and Children's Services, the local unit has the power to make the decision whether they want to continue with funding or not. And in our area, the local unit, I can't think of a case at this point where they continue funding. Their funding goes toward the children that are still in care. So once the formal adoption goes through, the family's on their own. There is no money coming from Family and Children's Services at that point.
Okay. I was thinking in terms of TAs and things like that. Somebody is funding that out of the province, but maybe it goes through another pay envelope sort of thing.
So I think the difference is we're children that are in children that are in care, absolutely. Children in care continue to receive the funding from the province right through to age 18. And then yes, they essentially, they've changed it to 21 now, but they basically get cut off at 21, children in care. But if a family adopts a child, then that relationship completely comes to an end. And most of our families, that's who we are, is we have formally adopted our children. And so we have a collaboration with Family and Children's Services, but we're definitely not funded in any way by them.
Great, thank you. This is a very worthy project you're involved with, and I'd like to support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question and the answer. Any further comments, questions from other members of council? Councilor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Rob, as I'm listening to you and the comments and everything, I get a bit of a hint of the program of a few years back, and I think it's still around, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I just wonder if there's any similarities. I know teenagers respond best if they have a buddy, I guess you could say, a fellow teenager, maybe even their own age. But I'm also wondering if you've got the interest of adults to maybe take on one of these lads as a bit of a project. You mentioned the 23, 24, 25-year-old group. I can appreciate your having success with that, because they're just that much older that they would have an influence and know how to sort of handle themselves around these kids. I just wondered if there's any other sidebar programs that you're considering in helping these kids.
There absolutely is. And we've, I guess the first thing that I would say is, yes, we unabashedly stole the Big Brothers, Big Sisters model to a large extent. And when we were establishing this programming and how that's set up, we in fact reach out to them initially. But the challenge that we ran into with it is they really base their operations out of the schools. And so they tend to do after school programming within the school building. A lot of our children it's not unusual for sensory profiles to be really extreme with our children as part of this disability. And so being in environments that are enclosed, being in environments with several people, as you can imagine, the school experience in general is not one that we tend to, it's hit and miss, whether we're going to be even successfully navigating that. So for them to stay after school with Big Brothers at the end of a long day, it really wasn't, it wasn't realistic. And so we had to kind of adapt a little bit to meet the needs from that aspect. Some of the other things that we are doing, though, we focus a lot on skills development within that programming. And so one of the things that we do is we have a sidebar organization known as Beckwith Tech Camp, where we're teaching these kids how to do robotics, and we're teaching them how to do programming, and we're teaching them how to do debugging of computer software and those kinds of things, because those are careers that are realistic for them. They're really good at sitting in the room by themselves with a computer for hours on end and picking up all those visual aspects. So we've branched out into that part. The other part that we've branched out into as well, though, is we have we have 3 full training modules that we can go to any organization and basically share information on how to best serve those individuals. In fact, we bring our youth mentors along, and they'll speak to their own stories. It's really important for us to be able to provide that forum where they can share their voice. And if you go to the website, you'll see one of our youth right now is writing a blog and sharing her experiences of what it's like to live with this disability, so that you can hear directly from her what this is like. So that's we're having a lot of great conversations for sure. And like I said, Minister Clark has been just an amazing advocate on our behalf for 3 years now. Mrs. Crosby, again, has also been an amazing advocate. And we keep discovering more and more opportunities and running with them.
Thank you both for that exchange. Some great information there. Anything else from members of council this evening? Councilor Shankar?
Rob, thanks for your presentation. A couple of things. I think council in general wants to help as many people as we can. It sounds like you're a worthwhile cause, and I like what you said about you're not just here for where'd you go there?
Sorry,
that's okay.
My rural broadband just kicked out on me there. I'm back now though.
Okay, I was just saying thank you for your presentation. Very worthwhile cause. You said two things. One, you were more interested in making connections with Prescott and Prescott Council, whoever it may be, or council as a whole. But you also started the process by coming in looking for some funding. We do have funding for this type of process. So exactly what kind of connections do you want? Like just having your presentation here has set us up that we now know about your organization and a bit more about what you do, but what else do you need from us?
So I guess the one thing that I would say would be I'm going to direct you back to our new website. And on our new website, right now we have 3 sponsoring funders whose logo we have at the bottom of every page. And as part of that logo, it goes both ways, because when we have organizations publicly standing with us saying that they support us, that makes a huge difference for us. But then and vice versa, because of the individuals who are coming on, we do have a provincial presence and we have a federal presence as well. So I think that's where I would suggest. And for us right now, the cost of the website is completely covered by all 3 of those sponsors. So it could be, for us, it wouldn't matter what the number was. Like it literally could be like if council wanted to do $100 to get and have your logo up there standing with us, that would be, I guess, the other financial ask that I would have.
Okay, thank you very much, Rob.
Thanks very much to you both. Any other final questions? Seeing none, nothing from myself this evening other than to thanks for coming forward, Rob. It's valuable work, and as we see what's happening in society overall, the pressures on families. We've had the overdoses in our area. We've had a lot of issues there. Clearly, a service like you're offering, the need's only going to grow. And I've discussed some of this with Roger Haley, who chairs Leeds Grenville Lanark Mental Health, is a good friend of mine. And we've talked about a lot of these issues in relation to homelessness and everything else. And this is something else that's obviously a pressing need too. So thanks so much for coming forward. Thanks for the work that you're doing in our community and across the counties. And we will bring this back a little later this evening to discuss the specific ask, and we'll be able to get an answer back to you very quickly after tonight's meeting, I would guess. But thanks again for joining us, and have a great night, and all the best for happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much, and again, very much appreciate the opportunity to come and present to council tonight.
Thank you. Take care and have a good night. So those are our 2 presentations for this evening. So moving along, nothing under delegations and 6 minutes of the previous council meeting. We do have under 6.1 our meeting from November 15th. Recommendation there is that the council minutes dated November 15th, 2021 be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Young, seconded by Councillor McConnell. Any discussion on that set of minutes? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. 7, communications and petitions. We've just included this for information tonight under 7.1. That's the affordable housing plan from the United Counties that I've been bringing updates back for the last year or so. You'll note that there were some recommendations that were accepted at our last meeting of the affordable housing group. The key ones are the hiring of the coordinator to look after this. That was approved by the group. That committee doesn't include all mayors of Lynn, Leeds, and Grenville. That's basically the whole joint services group, the 10 townships, and of course, Prescott, Gananoque, and Brockville. So got very strong support there. And the other main recommendation that was passed involves secondary suites and establishing a program there to try to get some more housing available. I've also asked, Matthew's included the Dillon report, which we commissioned through the work of that affordable housing group. Some good stuff there, some good data, and quite a healthy suite of recommendations. If anyone has any further questions, want to take a look through that, hit me up anytime. Happy to help. There will be a request coming back, I believe, to Prescott Joint Services tomorrow. I believe will ratify this, and there will be a request coming back to the 3 separated municipalities asking for formal approval of the councils on that recommendation. Primarily, it will be with regards to hiring that new coordinator for affordable housing. And that is, there will be a slight budgetary impact to us, but Matthew, what's our percentage there with counties?
It's approximately 3%.
So you're looking at a fairly minimal financial commitment there, but we'll know a little more about that when this comes back. I believe there'll be an attempt to get this back to council for next week. If not, it'll be very early in January. So if anyone has any comments, questions on it tonight, I'd be happy to try to answer, but otherwise, I'm happy to answer them after the fact as well if anyone has anything they'd like to bring forward. Trying to be kind of aggressive with this, with affordable housing. It's a huge crisis across the area, as we all know, and I think what we're looking at as a region could potentially help quite a bit. But we've got to really take this on because the current situation simply isn't tenable. Any comments, questions? Seeing no, thanks very much. So we will bring that back shortly when we have more from counties on that formal request. 8 consent reports this evening, and of course we've got everything here as considered routine. If anyone wants to break anything out from the information package under separate cover, please raise it now. Councillor Jansman.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Number 9, because it was a topic under my portfolio having to do with the Ontario Building Code. I did ask our staff for their opinion as to whether we should consider supporting this City of Kitchener, and I did get some reply that it is supported, and if a change is supported by staff. Our Sean Merriman, our building person manager, of course, as well as our fire department. And so if we could just ask for the staff to bring that back perhaps next meeting, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I think we can do that as just staff direction and not split the item up, but is everyone okay with that? Bring that back for further discussion? Seeing a lot of nods, so I think we're good with that. Anyone else want to speak to anything on the information package to bring it back as well? Seeing none, so I will look for a recommendation, a mover. So the recommendation reads that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda tonight be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Young. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. Committee reports. We actually have a fair bit under committee tonight, starting off with some PAC items. 9.1 is Planning Advisory Committee Report 16-2021, consent application SEV 2021-02, dealing with 733 Royal Crescent. Recommendation reads that council approve the proposed consent application SEV 2021-02, subject to the following conditions. One, the balance of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, and any local improvement charges, if applicable, shall be paid to the town. And two, an acceptable reference plan or legal description of the severed lands and the deed or instrument conveying the severed lands, demonstrating the new property lines for both properties, shall be registered and submitted to the town. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jansman, seconded by Councillor Shankar. Mr. Armstrong, any comments on this before I open it up this evening?
This is a correction of a lot line where one house was, the foundation was built over the lot line. And so the two neighbors have come together, come to an agreement. They've been very amicable about it. And so to move it forward, it's just a matter of a slight adjustment to the lot line between the two properties. And that's what you see before you this evening. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. Councillor Jansman as chair and Councillor Burton as the other council member there, along with myself, although I wasn't able to make that meeting. Any comments? Councillor Jansman, Councillor Burton on this?
There was no concerns or issues, and the staff report was very clear. And as Matthew mentioned, with the two parties being very much on the same side, no play on words, it was of no issue.
Sounds good. I see Councillor Burton nodding as well. And any further comments, questions from anyone on council tonight? Seeing no, I will call the question then. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And 9.2 is also from that same PAC meeting, and that's generated PAC Report 17-2021, proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 392 Edward Street. Recommendation is that council adopt a zoning bylaw amendment under Section 34 of the Planning Act to remove the special exemption core commercial CC-1 on the property of 392 Edward Street to allow for all uses as noted in the core commercial or CC zone in the town of Prescott. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved again by Councillor Jansman, seconded by Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, any comments on that this evening?
So the exemption or lot specific zoning for 392 Edward limited to the number of units within the building, residential units, to 3. However, since then, council will remember passing a changing to the overall zoning that would allow commercial or residential on all floors. And so I believe the development, they're looking to put in a total of 6 residential units with no commercial, which is allowed in that core commercial now that there's also the zoning amendment. And so really it's just to remove this site specific and be able to move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I'll turn it over to PAC Chair Jansman and Councillor Burton as the other member. Any comments from either of you on this item this evening before I open it up for council?
The owner and developer was present at the meeting, and he spoke, and he was for anybody watching, it's the old Lamar Lux building, which we all would agree, I'm sure, is a beautiful building, and he provided a lot of extra information, and we were all very quite pleased that it was going to provide more housing for Prescott, which is what we need, what everyone needs, more housing, and that he was going to do it in the proper way, not to offend or have any pushback from the heritage concerns. Leanne, any more? Am I missing?
Yeah, he did talk about affordable for anybody. He said 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms, and creating a couple more entrances to the building. So other than that, I think you covered it, Councillor Jansman.
Thanks very much to you both for that added information. Much appreciated. Any comments, questions from other members of council this evening? Councillor McConnell and then Councillor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I think my question may have just been answered. I was going to ask if there's going to be any changes to the exterior appearance of the building, and I understand there's a couple more entrances going in. Is there anything else that you know that we don't?
Just as a point of clarification, they haven't indicated that there's any changes to the outside of the building. It's just how people will access the individual units and that sort of thing. So from a Heritage Committee standpoint, we were not aware of any alterations to the exterior of the building at this point. But if there were to be any, then absolutely we bring them forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Matt. Councilor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question in the article. It mentioned that there was some concern about there just being one entrance and exit to Edward Street from the property for vehicular traffic. I just wondered if that was any concern as they went through all the details on it there.
Matthew?
I can speak to that. So certainly when we were talking about it as a staff internally, we just want to make sure that there's clear delineation between the ins and the outs, and being able to ensure that people are able to access and leave the property in a safe manner. So we have had further discussion with the property owner, and no concerns have been highlighted at this point. If there does raise a concern, then we can always put to us through site plan control and address it through that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much to you both. Any further comments, questions tonight? Certainly sounds like a great development for the town overall. Nice to have that added residential as well. So we have to make the most use of our properties, and it sounds like this is going to be a great use here. So that'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. And one more item, another good news item actually, under 9.3, that's PAC Report 18-2021. Site plan control agreement from Blacks Creek Site Plan Control. That's on Development Drive. Recommendation reads that council approve the proposed site plan application SPC 2021-03, subject to the following conditions. One, the balance of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, and any local improvement charges, if applicable, shall be paid to the town. And two, that the site plan agreement of the lands shall be registered and submitted to the town. Could I ask for a mover, please? Councilor Young?
Brett, yes, I'd move that. But before we finish talking about this, would it be possible to put the map on the screen? My poor old eyes are having trouble reading some of this very, very small print.
For Blacks Creek, Ray?
Yes. I mean, I know where it is, but the public will probably be interested.
Can we put that up, Mr. Armstrong? So Councilor Young moving, and do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Burton. So Mr. Armstrong, if you could put that up and just give us what you know about this. This is obviously a development that's been coming forward for a little while now, and now it's great to see that it's actually getting to very near the construction stage. It's one of many developments in that area that should be proceeding in 2022.
Thank you very much. And so I'm just going to start off by giving a little bit of a background while I'm bringing up the site plan map. So this is Blacks Creek, and it is our first of the new developments on Development Drive. It will be 355 Development Drive, and for an indication, it will sit just to the west of the hydro corridor that runs on Development Drive. I think if you go there today, that they've already started construction and being able to move those forward. So from there, I can speak specifically to the site plan. Hopefully you're able to see it. And so the overall building will be approximately 6,000 square feet. When you think about this is where Development Drive is, there's a laneway that will come in. There's a retail as well as manufacturing portion of the building for 6,000 square feet. There will be parking on to the west of the property, as well as an area at the back for loading. All of this over here will be remain as their kind of grass area, as well as storm water management pond, and they are able to address all of their stormwater servicing, both water and sewer on the property itself. So part of this is also when you work down here, here's the 401 to the south. There's a fair amount of trees that will remain on the lot. And there's a limit of development that's already imposed with MTO. And so all of those were able to be met. Because of the proximity to the 401, it does have to go through a process with MTO that's already been approved. And so they've already done their stormwater management side of it. They've addressed any traffic related concerns, and MTO has already provided them their building permit and development permit. So we're very happy from that perspective. And we've been through all of the reports with peer reviewing all of them, as well as going through from a planning perspective with WSP. WSP agrees that we've been able to, or the proponent's been able to address all of the items, as well as engineering agrees with the plans that have been submitted. There was some back and forth, as there always is, points of clarification, points of making sure that we have all of the I's dotted and T's crossed. But certainly, we're very happy to be able to bring this forward to council this evening, and look forward to it coming to fruition. And I believe they're intending on moving in 2022 and being fully operational.
Thanks very much, Matt. Just a quick background for those that may be watching tonight. Blacks Creek, what they'll be actually doing there with the company and the job impact.
Certainly. So Blacks Creek is a manufacturer of wood processing equipment. So I believe the history of the company was born out of the ice storm that the founder of the company built his own log splitting and equipment during the ice storm to be able to get through that particular event. And upon the ice storm ending, he sold the product, and he found that there was a lot of demand, not only for that type of product, but in particular for the design that he came up with. So that started a business that is now well over 10 years old, and, if not in the 20-year range. And they've grown out of their current location, and we're looking for a spot that really allowed them to grow and address their ongoing needs. So they purchased the piece of property from the town. Have been working diligently to make sure all their plans were approved and submitted to the town so that they could be peer reviewed. And we're very happy to be able to bring this forward today. In terms of the site itself, it will act as both a manufacturing warehouse where they'll do more of the assembly of the products themselves, and then they have a retail office in the front part of the building. So both together certainly is a great addition to that area. It's not noisy. It's not going to produce fumes or anything like that. But at the same time, once they ramp up to their full allocation, they're looking between 10 and 15 jobs total in the town. So that's also really good news, and certainly is almost a doubling of their workforce today.
Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. Just good to get that out there again, so everyone knows what we're bringing. And I don't want people to think there's any wood processing or anything that's going to be anything loud in particular, because when you talk about wood splitting and so on, that's the sort of the first thing that does come up, and that will not be happening on site. Councillor Young, you had a further comment, question, please.
Just to follow up, the only thing that might be asked now is how much are they paying for this land?
Certainly. So they paid $25,000 an acre, and which was the market price of the land.
Times how many acres?
I believe it's 4.5.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Other comments, questions tonight? Looks like nothing further, so I'll finish up by welcoming Blacks Creek. Great to have them in Prescott, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Thanks very much, everyone.
So just as a point of clarification, Mayor Todd, so this will come back next week to approve the bylaw. This evening was approving the overall concept, and next week we'll approve the bylaw. So
Sounds great, Mr. Armstrong. Good stuff. So we'll look forward to finalizing that completely at the December 13th meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so that does move us through all the PAC reports from the other week. But we do have one more report under committees. That's 9.4. That's from the Police Services Board. It's a report on the pedestrian crossing evaluations we've talked about a few times. Recommendation here tonight is that council direct staff to undertake a pedestrian crossing evaluation for the King Street and Edward Street crossings by a transportation and traffic engineering firm to develop recommendations on improvements. Could I ask for a mover, please?
Brett, can we have
Young?
the screen back?
Sorry, Councilor Jasmine?
Can we have the screen back? The
Oh,
map?
yeah, please. Yeah, if we could.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for noting that. Who did I have moving that again?
I would.
Councilor Young, seconded by Councilor Ostrander. Thank you. So Mr. Armstrong, take us away, please.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mayor Todd. So over the last several years, we've made several changes throughout the town of Prescott and to our crosswalks and crossovers. And when I talk about crosswalks and crossovers, when we have traffic lights involved, then that's a crosswalk. If it's a if you have the flashing yellow lights, such as at St. Lawrence Street or at Irvine, that's a crossover. So they're pretty much interchangeable, but it's just some vernacular in that particular aspect. So we did have an incident back in October where there was a collision between a pedestrian and a vehicle, which then brought this to Police Services Board. The OPP did do a background analysis to determine if there had been any other crosswalk related incidents. And there was one incident found in October of 2019 at Edward and Irvine. So with those two, and coupled with the changes that we've made primarily along King Street, we thought it would be a good idea to have a traffic engineering and practitioner take a look at them and provide any recommendations for improvements that they might see. So MTO, Minister of Transportation of Ontario, provides a number of books that cover a plethora of traffic-related items, and Book 15 in particular of the Ontario Traffic Manual deals with pedestrian crossovers, crosswalks, and crossings. So in there, it provides a fair amount of guidance as to what the appropriate treatment is for any area. But at the same time, they're very clear that having a traffic professional and practitioner take a look at the unique circumstances is a prudent way to move forward. So that's really what we're looking at this evening. The particular crosswalks and crossovers that would be looked at would be King and Center, King and George, King and St. Lawrence, Edward and Park, Edward and Irvine, and Edward at Victor Road. So we see this as being, again, a good use of modernization funding of approximately $12,500. And we believe this can be done in the course of the next couple of months so that we would be able to make some determinations on how we'd be able to implement improvements in 2022. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. Open it up for comments and questions, please. Councilor Young.
I think it's a great idea to move forward with this. I'm sure we've all had complaints about most of these intersections. It's probably because both motorists and pedestrians are not obeying the laws when they use these intersections. Many pedestrians do not activate the crosswalk system. Many cars do not know when they can drive through the intersection after the pedestrian is off the roadway. So I'm looking forward to some recommendations that will make them safer, and everybody should be happy.
Thank you very much, Councilor Young. Councilor Shankar, please.
safety is, very important to all of us. We took a lot of flack for going down to 40 kilometers an hour, but to me, it's well justified in the report that we read in terms of safety for everyone. So if we can spend some of our modernization money to evaluate these crosswalks, I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. Other comments, questions? Councillor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Ray made an excellent point about not knowing what to properly do at various intersections, both motorists and pedestrians. And I know I've had comments from motorists that they don't know what to do because some intersections have an actual light that's red, some intersections have a flashing orange. And then, of course, we have intersections that don't have any lights at all, such as, West Street and King, Ann and King. Those are courtesy crosswalks. You don't have to stop if you don't want to. But I think it'd be good to have this study done. And I would like to see us all have a clear understanding of what is expected, especially from motorists at the various crosswalks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Mr. Armstrong, get a response?
Certainly. So I mentioned at Police Services Board that we found some great resources from the City of Kingston on using crosswalks and crossovers, and that's one of the things that we'll be promoting in December and January is the proper use of crosswalks and crossovers. So there's some really great illustrations and explanations, and that's part of what our social media campaign is going to be in this month and next. So exactly your point, training people on and inform them how to use it from both a pedestrian standpoint as well as a driver standpoint is just a great way to start the process. And then at the same time, we're able to address those safety concerns through the analysis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. Anything else, Lee?
No, I was going to tell an amusing story, but it's a long meeting, so I won't bother.
Thank you very much. Any further comments on this item tonight? Seeing nothing further, I just add, I think it's a good direction to go as well for all the reasons that have been mentioned. We've still got a lot of issues with these crosswalks. I was just pulling into Tim's last week and I saw a kid on his bicycle hit the crosswalk button at Irvin, and he watched for a moment and thankfully did, because absolutely none of the traffic heading south even bothered to slow down at the least little bit when the button had been activated. So that's an ongoing concern. The biggest thing is people just have to be more attentive when they're driving, I would say. Obey the speed limits. In the downtown, I don't even think people should be doing 40 on those core blocks in the downtown. There's too much possibility for someone to walk out in front, someone to open a car door, whatever. It's just, people just have to slow down and keep an eye out. And we've had incidents, and we're going to continue to have incidents, but hopefully this will help us put in place some good plans and some good changes that we can implement as soon as we hit the spring. My only concern with all of this is we're going to take another couple of months to begin anything, but we are into the winter now anyways. Hopefully that alone will slow people down some, and we'll be able to actually implement changes once we get through the snow and the bad weather. So hopefully it puts us in a really good position to implement changes in the spring. So with that, I don't see any other hands raised, so I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone.
Brad?
Yeah.
I apologize for this, but can we go back to Black Creek for just a second? I have a question that occurred to me just as you moved along, and I couldn't squeeze in there. Matthew,
sure.
I'm sure will be able to answer for me. Development Drive is only paved to a certain extent. Is this past the paved area where Black Creek is going? And if so, are we going to be having to pave that in next year's budget?
So I can address that. So yes, I believe it's past the paved portion, and no, there is no requirement to pave the road. So they're fine with the gravel, and part of their parking lot is gravel itself. So there is no requirement for the town to pave the road at this time.
Very good. Thank you.
With that said, and we won't continue the discussion any further tonight, there will be a much greater discussion on the paving of that entire area at some point in the not too distant future, because we do have, of course, the other developments coming in, and we all know that is something we're going to have to address at some point, and that point will likely be next year at some time. So good catch on that one, and it is something we're going to have to really look at very soon as we look at those other developments.
Well, if I may, I just thought with the other developments that we know are coming back there, we'd be better off not to pave it until they're done. Otherwise, we've got a lot of heavy equipment and brand new pavement, and we're just going to wind up having to do it again.
Absolutely, it's an excellent point. It is something that's it's gonna involve some expense and some added planning back there, but a lot of good development coming at that cost. So that'll come back at some point in the not too distant future. So thanks everyone for the discussion on all those items tonight. 10, Mayor, I'll just run down really quickly. It's been a busy last couple of weeks. Housing Affordability Task Force, I attended on November 17th, as has already been discussed. Attended our regular meeting of the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus on November 18th. Nothing too dramatic there, but we did just sort of finalize our priorities for the upcoming Roma conference at the end of January. That's virtual again this year, and we always do a ministerial delegation. The big point from our perspective is still highway. Looking at that expansion, the government is moving on that, but actually there's a lot of pressure from Quinty as well on that, because they've got more issues down there. So a number of the mayors were looking to make sure that continued at the top of the list of the EOMC priorities. Attended the Board of Health meeting on November 18th. Public health update meetings pretty much every Friday morning. I've been attending those at 10 just to review vaccination status and so forth. And we do have another vaccination clinic coming up in Prescott. I'll just note that for everyone. What's the date on that? Is it the 16th? Looking at staff, hoping somebody remembers the date. We can mention it later in the meeting as well if anyone wants to. But that'll be at the Leo Boyven Community Center on the 16th. Looking to really use this as an opportunity to vaccinate children, but I believe booster shots as well. But I'll double check on that, and we will be helping to promote that as we get closer to that date, which is coming up fairly quickly now. Attended the Kinsman Craft Show at the Leo, of course, on November 20th. I think most of council attended that day. Really busy. Great to see that. Raising all that great money for the Kinsman and Spirit of Giving, which is really necessary this year, of course. Prescott Police Services Board meeting on November 25th, where we did discuss what we just talked about and passed a motion on. Everything else relatively standard there. Had a special Board of Health meeting on November 26th regarding a couple of issues. Augusta Prescott Joint Task Force, I attended that on November 26th in the afternoon as well, along with Councilor Shankar. Really good meeting, and we've got a time frame now for bringing forward the study results and the recommendations for our economic development, and Augusta's, that'll be handled separately. And we're looking at a joint council meeting coming up, and I'm forgetting that date right now as well, but it's early in January. Matt, did you remember the date we were looking at for that?
I believe it's the 10th.
The 10th of January, but we will discuss this more. This will be back to council next week, I believe. We're still on Matt's nodding, so we're still on time frame for that. That'll deal with our specific economic development objectives and recommendations from MDB. That'll be coming back next week. Augusta will be handling theirs at the same time. That's the one separate portion of this, and then the joint stuff will come forward in January, and then we look at possibilities of implementation and so forth. Sort of really good place with that. I think I'll let Gory comment on, of course, as well. It was a really good meeting, a lot of good, exciting stuff happening with that partnership with Augusta, and things going really well, I would say. Attended, of course, the Heroes of COVID Awards night along with the rest of council last Thursday night, December 2nd. Great night, really positive. Great to get the plaques and the coins out there into the community, and thank some people that really stepped up for Prescott and the area during COVID. Did of course remind everyone, even though we kind of built this in some ways earlier on as a way to maybe say goodbye to COVID, but it's been made really clear the last little while, the old cliche, we're done with COVID, but COVID isn't done with us. So with Omicron out there, I just urge everybody to continue to take the pandemic seriously, mask up, get your booster shots if and when available, and hopefully by this time next year, we'll all be completely over the pandemic. We can finally put this behind us. And of course, I did attend the Prescott Santa visit. Great to see the fire department get out there on Friday night. Took a nice walk around town before as well. It was amazing to see how many people were out in front of their homes waiting for Santa to arrive. And just want to thank the fire department for doing that this year. It's not the usual parade, again, because of COVID, but it was an excellent night, really raised a lot of spirits. Great to see kids out as well, seeing Santa Claus. And also want to thank the fire department for doing such a long route. That's, I think they hit almost every street in town that night. It's an excellent job overall, just basically bringing Santa to everybody's front door. It wasn't the full parade, but boy, it was an excellent event and really raised a lot of spirits. And of course, we all attended the Founders Day event on Saturday, and when we opened the new museum and visitor center, did the tree lighting. Had a choir down. It's just an excellent night. Heard tons of positive feedback from that as well, particularly on the museum. Great crowds that went through. A lot of people just really impressed. Even a couple of people that were sort of doubting moving the museum and putting it in that location. Now the vision's really been realized there now, and I think people are really seeing it, and it'll only improve in the months to come because we still have a fair bit to add down there. This was a soft launch. We will be adding the AV room and added exhibits, more display plaques, all sorts of things by the spring. A lot of people to thank here, and I did at the event on Saturday, but I want to underline two people, and Samantha Jodwin Miller on town staff. Sam hasn't even been around that long, but she's really put her mark on us with the town, did an amazing job with that. And a lot of it, though, was really made possible by Fraser Lassinger. Reached out to Fraser as soon as we looked like we were going to do this to see if we could get his help, because I don't know if there's anyone that loves Prescott history quite as much as he does and knows the collection at the Forder's Museum. And it's really a labor of love for him. And him and Sam provided a fantastic team that really got us across the finish line with this. So great vision realized. We've got a presence on King Street as well, which is something that a lot of us, I think, have wanted for quite some time to get some municipal presence right on King Street. So once we're through COVID and everything as well, we're looking at regular opening hours. Like I said, the visitor center is going to operate out of there. We will have potential for BIA operations there as well, and a little bit of economic development too, with an employee station down there, particularly in the summer months. So it's a really successful day on Saturday, and it really bodes well for the future for that facility as primarily a museum, but also for some great other ways of bringing town hall to downtown Prescott, and fills a storefront and on and on. So anyways, that's it for me tonight. Really busy last couple of weeks, but I'll pass it on to Councillor Burton and start off item 11 on outside boards.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I just want to echo about the opening of the museum and new visitors center. It's so inviting for all ages, and I think that's important to put that out there as well. And it's modern too, so people are going to be more up to visit the new center. And kudos to all the staff involved. It's just a fabulous addition to our downtown. Santa Claus parade, the little pop-up Santa Claus parade Friday night was fabulous. It really shows the dedication of our fire department and to our community, and just to make sure that each child and family had an opportunity to see Santa, because they basically drove all the way around town. So that's just fabulous. The dog park is, the relocated dog park is being utilized a lot. I just wanted to remind residents, it's really important to still clean up after your pet at the dog park. There's been a couple little issues there, but please make it fun for everybody and clean up after your pets. And staff have, our operations department has been very busy again. They have set up our new little outdoor rink at Sarah Spencer Park. So that's going to be a great addition to the neighborhood, and you can already hear the buzz around the neighborhood that kids are getting excited to be able to skate so close to home. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burton. And note for everyone too, we are doing rinks down at the harbor, the marina ice down there this winter as well. So we'll have two great spots for people to play hockey, the north end and downtown. So fantastic stuff. Thanks so much for those updates, Councilor Burton. Councilor Jansman, please.
Just not to very much in agreement with what Leanne just said. It was a fun Friday night and a big day on Saturday. So kudos to all the staff. It was a real team effort, and Fraser, of course, and Santa Claus coming to town is always a big treat. And you may have mentioned this, Mayor Todd, but I enjoyed going to, as Leanne mentioned, we're so lucky. The town of Prescott is so lucky to have our fire department, and to see the long-serving firemen being recognized this past week was really something to see too. And there's just a whole bunch of humble people there, and not willing to give themselves the praise that they deserve. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's it for me. Thank you.
Great point. I knew I missed one big event from last week, and we honored, I think it was almost 200 years of total service just with the individuals that did get the long service awards, and incredible dedication. So much to be thankful for there. Councilor McConnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'm not going to belabor everybody's comments on the things that we pretty much all attended over the last couple of weeks. A lot of people were honored, and deservedly so. The museum, I know we took a lot of flack for selling the museum building, but I always maintained that the museum building was not the museum. And I think we've now realized that we have a museum, and it's very well worthwhile going in and touring it. A few things going on in kind of my circle here. Walker House, due to the work that Susan Vallum has done, has received a grant from the Seniors Community Grant to hold a number of activities over the winter. And included in those activities are 2 free bus trips. One trip is to Morrisburg, to the Upper Canada Playhouse, and that will be to see a musical presentation, Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. That's December 16th. And Spencer, the story of Princess Di at the Brockville Arts Center, January 7th. And tickets are limited that she has for those. So if you'd like to go on those at no cost, call Walker House at 613-925-5300, or you can email them at walkerhouse@prescott.ca. The Shakespeare Festival is presenting a cozy Christmas concert at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, and that's Saturday, December 18th. There'll be 2 shows at 2:30 and at 7 o'clock. They will be featuring William Lynch, Melissa Morris, Quattro, Sophia, and Weckenham, I believe is the name, and our own Richard Sheridan Willis. And you can phone 613-925-5788 or tickets at stlawrenceshakespeare.ca. Either one will get you tickets to those 2 performances. And finally, the Curling Club, which has had a rough go over the last year or so, they had to shut down early in 2020. They were not able to play at all last year. And upon starting up their machinery in October, found they had a major equipment failure. And had trouble locating a replacement, but the replacement is here. It's going in. They expect to be making ice late this week and curling by December 20th. And for new curlers, they'll be holding a Learn to Curl session in the new year on January 11th. And I understand that they have 12 or 15 new curlers signed up already. So that'll be welcome activity for people to get the winter through. I know I've curled for many years, and it sure gets the winter by when you have something to look forward to. Thank you very much. That'll be it for me, Mayor Todd.
Thanks very much, Councilor McConnell. Councilor Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. November 27th, Saturday evening, we had our Sentimental Journey show at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. We had just over 100 people attend and got rave reviews. Chris Coye and Alex Florio always put on a top-notch show. So we're our next show, and that's this basically our 2022 program, our first show in 2022, will be February 26th. There'll be more information on that, details of the show and everything in the new year, and I'll have more to say on that when it happens. I attended the fire department medal presentations for their long service. Prescott Legion is now open Wednesdays to Saturday every week. They're putting on their Thursday meals twice a day, noon and supper time. Be good if people would support them. They've had a bit of a rough go over COVID, and they're just nicely starting to get their legs under them again. Connect Youth, they're in the final stages of their amalgamation with the John Howard Society, and they're both organizations are doing audits now and trying to marry them together. And they hope sometime after the fiscal year, April 1st, that they can actually put the show together that they have been working on so extensively over the last year and a half or so. That's pretty well it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike, and Lee as well. That's really great to see all these events starting to come back, whether it's curling, concerts. It's nice we're finally moving towards that, and we'll see even more of that next year. Councilor Shankar, please.
Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks for everyone. And the one thing I noted is like almost all of council is at every event, which is really nice. And it shows a lot of harmony and how we all work together and are supportive of each other and all the different projects that are going on in town. You know, the fire department has been mentioned. That was a beautiful honor for Chief Morehouse, and I think it was Gilmer as well. No, it was George Prosser. Sorry, there was some really nice presentations for both of those fellas, and not to mention all the other groups. All the other firefighters that were reaching their 5-year pins and also 25 years. Like you said, there was a lot of volunteerism in that group, and we do appreciate them. And then they step out, give Santa a ride through town. So that was great. A lot of positive feedback from the kids who probably didn't see Santa for the last couple of years. The Heroes of COVID, I thought, was a great event. There was like 100 people there. It's nice to be able to say thank you to all those heroes that worked so hard during the pandemic and continue to work hard. So I thought that was a great presentation. Lots of other events. The museum was fantastic. Kudos to Samantha and Fraser and Matthew. I mean, I think they were working on that every day, and it showed. It really showed. I hadn't been in there since Green Things were there, and just to walk in, I was kind of keeping it as a surprise to see it, and I didn't want to bug anyone that was working. But when I got in there, I was like, wow, this is really well done. So I put it out to everybody to make sure you go see that and appreciate it and see some of our heritage and our community. Yeah, I probably didn't cover everything, but it was a good busy couple of weeks, you know. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Corey. And Councilor Young, please.
Thank you, Brett. In addition to attending all of the events in the last week, I also spent some time with the operation group, not working with them, but watching them use a piece of equipment that looks quite interesting. It melts the paving where there's a pothole, around a pothole. They dig it up, they add some more to the mix, and then they lay it down again, and a new road in 20 minutes or half an hour. It is an alternative to putting in cold patch, which is virtually a waste of time. Cold patch goes in, and after a few hours of cars driving over it, it comes out of the patch. This hot patch, repatch, reusing, much more effective, and I look forward to checking the spots after the winter to see how they winter. I have no idea whether this will be on their wish list to purchase for the next year or not, but it's certainly something that could be purchased by one of the neighboring municipalities, by us, or even Brockville, Augusta, Edwardsburg, and shared at a cost, of course. But it just seems to me that it's a far better way to maintain the life of our roadways before we have to completely replace them. In addition to that, I did attend St. Lawrence Board of Management, and we are aware of our budget, and we are aware that expenses are a little high, but we also got some word of good funding, new funding, sustainable funding out of the province, and hopefully that will last for the next year or two, and it will certainly make life easier at St. Lawrence Lodge when it comes time to budgeting. That's all I have to report.
Thanks a lot, Ray. And I just note that we did bring that the asphalt machine up at our Augusta meeting as well, and we did discuss it with them. And I know a number of local municipalities were invited to take a look at it when it was down there. I think Brockville and maybe Augusta did show up. So nice to have that. And maybe this is another way we can partner, and cost is a lot cheaper as well. It reuses asphalt pieces and so forth. It looks like fantastic technology. Interesting to see how it weathers, but it's a good example of why we're trying to partner with Augusta and our neighbors on everything, because at the end of the day, we save residents some significant dollars there. Thanks everyone for the updates, much appreciated. And we are on now to item 12. We do have two items under 12 tonight. 12.1's brief budget 2022 presentation, assumptions and information. Mr. Armstrong, you want to take us through what you have so far and what you're looking for from council this evening?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Before I start, I would like to mention that with us this evening is Jessica Crawford, who is our Deputy Treasurer. Just recently, as of last week, Jessica did pass the CPA exam, and so I welcome you all in congratulating her on that.
Good for you.
And this year, Jessica will be taking a more active role in the budget, and we'll be presenting next week's presentation as well. So just wanted to give a shout out. So we're going to start this evening by just going through what we know so far from the budget perspective. And this it shows a similar pattern to what we did last year in terms of the process. And we're just going to start walking through it. Hopefully everyone can see that. So this evening, we're going to cover the timelines, the revenue assumptions, property tax information, the expense assumptions, as well as the ultimately having a brief discussion around the property tax target that you would like us to work towards, and certainly we'll make every effort to try and fit within that. So this evening we start at December 13th, and next week we'll be starting at December 13th with Health and Social Services. First meeting back in January, we'll be addressing administrative services, protective services, and planning and development. We'll also be reviewing the initial list of projects submitted by both staff and council. If you haven't had an opportunity to do so, if you could submit your project ideas for 2022 by December 15th to myself and Jessica, that would be fantastic, so that we can have that discussion on January 4th. January 17th, we'll be looking at transportation, parks and recreation, as well as any large-scale projects. If there are any, then having them approved earlier in the process than later would be helpful. Just as a note, we do have the second part of Dibble Street East that will be completed next year, as well as our major recreation complex project that's will be a large focus for next year. We also have already approved the replacement of 2 docks, both G and H, as well as potentially a bridge project that we said we would come back and have a discussion at, given the numbers that came back earlier this year. So then we move to February 7th, and we'll be looking at environmental, water and wastewater. February 22nd, revenue and taxation, as well as prioritizing the capital and operations projects for 2022. And finally, March 17th is that sober second look. So going back and saying, with everything that we've done so far, both from a revenue and expense perspective, as well as from a project perspective, how do they align with our strategic plan? How do they align with the service delivery review? As well as by then we'll also have the economic development plan, so our strategic plan. So that's our sober second look in March. And if we're on track, then we'll be looking to pass the budget on or around March 20th. If there's still work to do, then obviously we have some time to be able to accomplish that before the new budget takes full effect and we have to do final budgeting or final payments. So from a revenue perspective, the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, OMPF, is remaining the same for 2022. It's unchanged from 2021. So there will be no additional funding coming from that particular funding source. Interest on the high interest savings account. In pre-COVID, we were earning about $120,000 a year, and it was at 2.4%. Effective last January, it dropped to 1.65%, and it has risen a bit to 7.15%. So from that 120,000 to what, if it doesn't change from the 7.15% that we're currently earning, then that's a negative effect of $84,000. It's also unlikely that marriage licenses and lottery licenses will return to their pre-pandemic level. And so we're expecting a negative effect on the 2022 budget of approximately $8,000. Outstanding property taxes, which is a good news item, has been declining, but there is a revenue impact that we're earning less interest and penalties on that. So certainly it's something that we're striving for from a financial management perspective for that balance to be declining, but it also does have a bottom line impact from the budget perspective. Official or provincial offenses is unlikely to return to the 2022 levels. We don't exactly know what that's going to look like yet. And we will get more information on that when the joint services and the counties work through their budgeting process. The Ontario Community Improvement Fund, which we've used the last several years to support repaving, there was an announcement in the fall update of the provincial budget that it is going to be enhanced to double the size of the fund. However, the basis upon which it will be calculated is expected to change as well. So we don't exactly know what that number is going to look like as of yet. As soon as we do, then obviously we'll incorporate it into the budget. For now, we are planning on using the $267,000 that is the amount that we received in 2021. to do repaving projects in 2022 as well. And then just as a reminder, we used $160,000 in COVID funding to address revenue and cost pressures. So many of the items that I just mentioned we were able to support through the COVID funding, in particular interest and reduction in fees due to COVID. From a property tax perspective, there will be no revaluation again for 2022. So the 2016 values, which is what we're currently working on, were phased in over 4 years, and that the full amount was realized in 2020. 2021, was supposed to be the timing of the reevaluation. However, that was postponed. We also know that it will remain unchanged for 2022 and most likely 2023. So therefore, from a budget perspective, we will have no value increase. That will be a natural increase through assessment. So the only assessments that we will see through growth is either new builds or renovations. And so just a point to make from a revenue perspective. When we're looking at expenses, we know that the salary increase for next year for QP and non-union is 2%. The benefits increase as of January 1st. We're happy that it actually, instead of being 9.2%, which is what it was projected, with the implementation of the new limits on paramedical services, we actually received a reduction of 4.3% from that 9.2. So the benefit increase will only be 4.9. From a liability and property insurance perspective, the premiums increased by almost 35,000 as part of our renewal just this past August. We also had insurance enhancements for earthquake and flood coverage, as well as increasing our liability limit to $25 million from $20 million. So that increased it by 12,000. And we do note that some municipalities are still facing very large increases. We were more on the best customer and below average for increases in both 2020 and 2021. So we're hoping that the large increases will start to even themselves out. And so we're assuming that there'll be a 5% increase for our renewal in 2022 and 2023. Joint services will be assumed at 2% until the United Counties have worked through their budget. I have been in discussions with them, and they felt 2% was the reasonable number at this time until they get more information. Public Health has already provided their levy for 2022, which will be an increase of approximately $1,500 or 1.8%. And the OPP has already provided their costing for 2022, which is an increase of almost 56,000 or 4.6%. So it will be going from 1.2 million to 1.258 million. So really, from a property tax perspective, which is why we wanted to have kind of our opening discussion this evening, is we started in 2020, we had a 0% increase. In 2021, we had a 1.25% increase. So really, it's now knowing everything that we know so far, and obviously there's much more information to come, but is there a particular range that council would like us to try to strive for over the next 2 months when we're presenting the budget? Just as a note, our next budget meeting will be next week, and we'll be covering health and social services, and that's the end of the presentation for this evening. So we'll stop screen sharing and then hand it back over to the mayor for the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matthew. It really lays it all out, and there are a lot of stressors there. There are a lot of potential areas that are costing us money and impacting on our revenue, and that's the only caution I would give to everyone before we discuss everything here is that MPAC issue as well. I mean, that'll be frozen by the time they finally open that up. I'm going to guess when they do finally open it up, it'll have some significant caps, I would guess, on what municipalities can charge. So we just want to watch that we don't, nobody wants to increase taxes at all, but we want to watch that we don't work ourselves into a situation where a future council is going to be hit with potentially having to do a fairly significant increase in 1 year. So this is a very, very difficult time right now, I would say, to have to properly budget, given that there are a lot of X factors out there that we're not going to really know the full impact of for a little while yet. And what we do know is things are going up. So with that, I'll just open it up for comments, questions from all members of council, and start with Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Brett. If my math is near what it should be, just looking at the cost of insurance and the cost of increase of the OPP contract, that's approximately 2% of our budget, is it not, Matthew?
It is.
So we're starting to look at all the expenses at last year plus 2% almost.
That's correct.
Thanks, Ray. Other comments, questions?
I'm just sure glad it's all Jessica's ball now and she can take responsibility for it.
Other comments? Councillor Shankar.
Thanks for that presentation, Matt. It's going to help us. You don't want us to come up with a number tonight just by the end of it, right?
So it's always helpful if we have a range to work in. So are you comfortable with something above 0? Are you comfortable with something less than 5? Is there somewhere in there that you're comfortable or absolutely not comfortable? So really, that's what we're trying to aim for. It's not something that we're going to hold anyone to, but it certainly helps as we go through is saying, we don't want to come back with something that you're absolutely not comfortable with discussing and taking a lot of time to try and find areas where we could get it. So really, that's what we're one of the purposes of this evening is just to have a kind of discussion to say, in where's the range and where's the comfort level. Also keeping in mind that we have the 1% that we put on for infrastructure. So there's a lot of things that we're working against us, but at the same time, it's staff's responsibility to present a budget that we feel is achievable and at the same time is responsible financially and meets your fiduciary duty as a kind of leader of Prescott.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all like to keep it at 0, but just from that small window we saw tonight, I don't think that's possible. So there will be some good discussion going forward, I would assume. Yeah. Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Corey. Councillor Jansman, and then back to Councillor Young, please.
Just as to continue what Councillor Young was saying, a lot of the big ticket items our hands are tied. OPP is a prime example of that. Insurance, like we don't have any choice in those matters. I know in 2020 was an exceptional year, and that's how we came to have the 0%, but that's not responsible planning. So I would never advocate for that again. And we really don't have a choice anymore with inflation going up and those big ticket items. So I think we have to be to answer in broad strokes Matthew's question. We have to at least be looking at the two-ish mark, 2-3-ish mark, in my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jansman. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Brett. Yes, and it's not all doom and gloom though, guys. The sale of that property tonight or next week when it goes through, we'll put $100,000 plus in the bank. That's nice. By the end of next year, we will have some increased taxation coming in from the new apartment building on the Daniels lot. And there are other additions to the town and developments in the town that will lead us to more revenue. So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom, but at this particular moment in time, I am opposed to a 0% increase as well as a 5% increase. So I'm opposed to that as well. So we're going to fit somewhere in the middle, I'm sure.
Thanks, Ray. Haven't heard from a couple of you so far. Councilor Burton, please.
Thank you. I think I'm on the same page as Councillor Young and Councillor Jasmine. I think it's important to raise our taxes a little bit. We have a lot going on in town, and it didn't work out a few years ago when we didn't raise the taxes, because then when you don't raise taxes for years and years, then you're right. I mean, one year you're going to have a 4% raise in tax, and then everybody's going to be up in arms. So I think it's important to raise them, not too high, but somewhere in the middle, like Councillor Young said. So I'd be in favor of that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burton. Still have Councilor Ostrander and McConnell. Comments, gentlemen? Councilor Ostrander.
Well, I think we've all been through this process enough times to know that we've had a couple of lean years as far as being able to give some breaks, COVID related, of course, and some other things. But I think it's only prudent that we're going to have to do something this year. I think our feet are held to the fire in some manner of speaking, that we'll be looking at an increase of some kind. And everybody's mentioned the 0 to 5 thing one way or another, and I'm going along with that as well. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilor Ostrander. Councilor McConnell, comments?
Thanks, Mayor Todd. I'm usually on the low end of any tax increase, as you all know, but given the fact that we have, as Ray has pointed out, 2 that add up to 2% already, that's there. There's nothing we can do about it. It would not be prudent to not pass that along, I don't think so. I think we're probably looking somewhere between 2 and 3% is what I would be looking at, maybe 2.75 or something. But one thing that we encountered, quite a few years ago, some members of council weren't there, is that a tremendous amount of money we were paying for OPP protection really limited what we were able to do in town. It was very difficult doing budgets because it was going up and up and up. And if we put taxes up and up and up to compensate, it would not be palatable. So we were really in difficult positions. We chose, when the province redid the OPP costing formula, we chose not to reduce taxes to compensate for that. We chose to use that extra money, that hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, for things that we really needed. A new street sweeper, a new Zamboni, repairs to this building, repairs to that building. So there was that cushion that we have been able to use for a number of years now. So until we get to the point where we have the reassessment, which is going to give us a natural boost, it may be time to look at that extra money that we've had and decide that, okay, we're not going to spend that much of that this year doing this or doing that. It may be time to take a look at what we're actually doing with our taxes and say, hey, maybe we don't really need to do that, or maybe we can put that off for another year or so until we get the natural boost from reassessment. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Any other comments from members of council this evening? Everybody's good with the timeline and everything what's being presented and moving forward. Same, very similar to last year, and lots of chances for discussion. I'll just throw my own couple cents in. Agree with pretty much everything that's been said. It'd be nice to find a good middle range number, but if we're looking at 2 off the bat, I am fully in favor of continuing that 1% in infrastructure as well. I think that's been very much needed over the years. So I will say that I am in support of that. I did want to comment on Ray's very good line about that it's not all doom and gloom, because it's not. We've been really working hard to establish new revenue sources. So anybody that's watching or media out there, should know well that we've done everything we can so we don't have to pass on expenses to the taxpayer. And I think we've been quite successful in that, and if all goes well, but knock on wood there, because it's you never know with economic development until the building's in the ground and everything's actually going and we have a check. I don't like counting on anything there, and Ray knows that well as any of us. But we do have some really good possibilities. I shouldn't even say possibilities. Very strong development on the horizon. Blacks Creek was the one tonight. We've got 2 more back there. We do have things like the apartment building. There's other residential opportunities in town that hopefully will come to fruition in 2022 as well. So we've really been working hard at that. And the other thing I'll note too, in terms of administration, and Lee really touched on this, is that when we have spent taxpayer dollars, it's been on real improvements, whether it's infrastructure or it's vehicles or it's things that really help better the quality of life in town. And just note that we handled that again this year with what we looked at with the CUPE agreement benefits. We managed to keep caps on a lot of our administrative spending. So money's not just vanishing into some black hole of administration. We're really making very sure that the dollars count and residents can see the benefits. But there are some expenses going up. That OPP cost is starting to accelerate a bit more now. I mean, we're over 1.2 million. That's up considerably from when the formula was changed, and you see it going up 4 or 5% a year. That's a little concerning, because that's a pretty high dollar figure too. And when you work into the property tax issue with MPAC and everything else, I mean, we are staring, and hopefully I think we can get the numbers down, but I think we are going to have to look at, we'll be starting from a higher perspective than we have in past years. And maybe at the end, we'll even have to settle for a little higher than we would like, because we'd all like to get that as close to a zero as possible, or even give something back if we can, giving the inflationary stresses on everyone right now. But just to note, that isn't possible, simply because those inflationary pressures that are on the average household are hitting us as well. That insurance number could be scary by the end of next year as well, if we get hit with some of the larger increases that other municipalities have. And then there's there's a lot of pressure right now. So I'm not really comfortable putting forth a number right now, but I do agree we're going to try to find something somewhere in the middle there, if at all possible. But I want to be able to digest what these numbers look like, and I think things will become a little clearer as we move forward through the budget process. I'm always one to try to get the budget done as quickly as possible and not waste time on things. But in this case, I think those extra couple months that we always take at the start of the year will help us with our deliberations. So great first start tonight, and thanks to Matt and Jessica, and congratulations again to Jessica on passing that exam. I know that's from not personal experience, but people I know that have taken it. It's a very tough exam. It's very grueling, and you've got to really have a good head in your shoulders and be very dedicated to complete that assignment and earn that recognition. So congratulations again on that. And certainly we're very well served when it comes to finances and pretty much everything else here at the town of Prescott. So congrats again, Jessica, for that achievement. So any further comments on this evening, or can we move along? And we'll be back next week with the first two presentations of the budget. Matt, anything else?
No, I think that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, folks. And we do have a couple more small items tonight, but we do have one more of that'll require a little discussion. That's 12.2 Staff Report 117-2021. That's a COVID vaccination policy for town staff. Recommendation is that council approve the draft COVID-19 vaccination policy that's supplied in everyone's packages this evening. Could I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Shankar, seconded by Councillor Burton. Mr. Armstrong, did you want to review this? And I will note that I did ask Matt to put this together about a week or so ago. We talked about it in the summer, weren't really sure it would be necessary, but with Omicron and issues continuing, thought it might be a good idea to bring this forward. So I thank Matt for doing this so quickly. Matthew?
Thank you very much. So certainly we've seen several municipalities in Lanark, Leeds and Greville pass such a policy. We really look to them to see what the background was, how they came to that decision, and then what was the best path forward for the town of Prescott. So of the ones listed, Edwardsburg Cardinal, Elizabethtown, Kitley, Front of Young, North Grenville, Town of Smith Falls, and United Counties of Leeds and Greville are all ones that we're aware of. And certainly that's what we look to. All of them follow pretty much the exact same concept. Obviously, preferences for vaccination. If there's a employee or volunteer that's not vaccinated, then they would go through rapid antigen testing. One of the things that I found when I was doing my research is that the province of Ontario does provide free testing kits to certain organizations. So I put in my application to see if we qualified. We do qualify. And I was even able to make my first order of the test kits. So there is no cost to the town of being able to roll this out. It would be applicable to all employees and volunteers. And if they provide their vaccination proof of vaccination, then they would be exempted from testing. If they don't provide it, then they'd be required to do 2 rapid antigen testings per week. And provide show the result of that. So certainly that it follows very much in line with all of the other municipalities that have passed one, and we're happy to bring it forward this evening for consideration. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Armstrong. Comments, questions, discussion from members of council tonight. Councillor Shankar, please.
Good job on the report, Matthew, and good, Brett, for bringing it to Matthew to set this up. I like this policy. It's in line with other municipalities. It's also showing some vision and some forethought that we're thinking about this now to keep this under control and to keep everyone healthy and safe. So I think, and it's no cost to us, or no one's going to lose their jobs and no one's going to get fired. So I'm all in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shankar. I think I saw Councillor McConnell's hand up. Lee?
Yeah, Brad, thank you. Personally speaking, I've never got a flu shot in my life because my mother always used to get it. She was sick as a dog every time she got it. So I thought, well, what's the point? I might as well take the chance of getting the flu. But this is a little different. This is crippling our hospitals. Getting the flu shot is the socially responsible thing to do. If you have got anything to do with the public at all, it is a socially responsible thing to do. I've got 2 of them, and I believe everybody should get 2 of them, and I'm fully in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McConnell. Councillor Burke, did I see your hand up a moment ago as well, or did I? Okay. Any other comments from members of council? Councillor Young, please.
I also support this plan. It sounds very similar to many others around the province. And while I'm sure there's going to be a challenge by someone into in the court system, I think we should move forward with this and try and try and keep everybody healthy inside the town of Prescott. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Other comments? Councilor Ostrander, please.
I think it is the proper approach. It dovetails with a lot of other corporations and businesses that are putting together a plan for their employees and that. And I think it's well thought out. Matt's done a good job on this, and he's dotted his I's and crossed his T's very carefully here, and that it will be for the safety, the health and safety of everybody concerned. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Any other comments? Just one myself. Thanks so much for all the support on this. And thanks again for Matt for putting this together so quickly. I obviously agree with everything, but the one thing I will say is just follow up on what Lee said. It's a socially responsible thing to do, and get vaccinated, folks. If anybody's out there listening to this, get the shots, get the boosters. You really see it when you've got someone, a loved one, someone in your family that's going through something and is in the hospital system and is vulnerable. You start getting much more sensitive to this. And that's something I've obviously been going through at home, as everyone knows, the last few months, and it really makes you more sensitive to this. I supported vaccines before. I support them even more now. And I just encourage people that are reticent, look into the realities of this, look into the actual, don't get your information from Dr. Facebook. Get your information from proper health authorities and do the right thing. Get vaccinated and get the boosters as well as they become available. We've got to stay on top of this. You're not just protecting yourself. You may be protecting the person next door. You may be protecting a cousin, a mother, a father, a wife, a husband. You have to do it. And it's just we really said it all, the socially responsible thing to do. We've got to look out for each other. And this is one way that we have to do this right now if we're going to get through COVID and we're going to protect the health of the most vulnerable. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thanks very much, folks. Much appreciated. And that almost takes us to the end of this evening. We do have nothing under resolutions tonight under 14 bylaws. We do have a bylaw this evening. That's 14.1. That's the zoning bylaw amendment for 392 Edward Street that we'd already discussed. So this is the formal bylaw. Recommendation reads that bylaw 51-2021 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 09-2009 being a bylaw to regulate the use of land, buildings, and structures within the town of Prescott be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, seconded by everybody, but I'll pick Teresa. Any discussion on this? Seeing nothing further, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. So 15 new business. We did say we moved down the discussion on the two grants. So if everyone's okay with that, we'll tackle the food bank first, as they were first up this evening. Any discussion, any comments, questions? Anyone want to make a motion? We do have, Matthew and I did discuss the monetary impact of this. So there is a way to do this that doesn't impact our budget. Matt, did you want to mention that, what we could possibly take funding from if we're going above and beyond the allocation in the community grants?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we did approve a couple of meetings ago, $23,500 in not-for-profit COVID grant funding. To date, as of today, I believe I've only received 2 applications, which would be less than the $23,000. So if council wishes to proceed with allocating some of that $23,000 to the food bank, then certainly that's another pot that's available. And just in terms of the total amount that's left in the community grant pot, so there was $5,600 minus the $500 allocated last month or a couple of meetings ago, Spirit of Giving, and less the amount for the garbage bags. So that leaves us with $4,600 in community grants. And again, we allocated another $23,000 for non-for-profit COVID grants. And to date, we wouldn't be close to that number. So we could absorb that food bank request in that line as well.
Thanks, Matthew. I just want to get that out as a point of clarification, just not to influence the discussion. Please don't let that influence anyone, but just to note that we can go over that budget without impacting the rest of the budget and have to pull the money out of reserves or anything like that. So I saw, Councillor Jansman, did you have your hand up a moment ago? I apologize. I saw a couple hands go up.
Yeah, I did, but Matthew did answer my question. It was just what do we have left before the 23,000? But as much as we all love Bonnie, love what she does for the food bank, so grateful for our residents to have the food bank if they need it. I'm glad, Brett, that you mentioned that the financials are quite telling, and I'm, 2020, they made over 115,000 more than they did in 2019. So I just wanted to perhaps repeat that as well. And when I made the question about Edwardsburg, Cardinal, and Augusta, and I don't know, but I suspect that they probably didn't commit as much as they usually do in 2021, because they might have thought with United Counties giving them 50,000 in 2021 might have been their logic, So 2020 was healthy for them. 2021, I think will again be healthy. I think us going over budget for them is not fair to our taxpayers, and I'm also fearful that next year that this wouldn't be considered a one-time, that 4,000 plus 7,000 is now 11,000. That will put a lot of pressure on our budget again next year, and I don't think it would be wise to increase that budget line to any significant amount either. So in fairness to our taxpayers, I'm for the financial reasons alone, I can't support the 7,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jansman. Other discussion? And is there anyone? This is a tough one for us because nobody wants to obviously say no to the food bank, because we all appreciate what they do, but there's obviously a little bit of discomfort around the table. Councillor McConnell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. Yeah, this is a real. I've been on the committee that looks at the requests that we get every year, and every year we have increased the amount of money that we've put towards this, and all the money that we give out goes to very good causes. The thing that concerns me here, and you brought it up when Bonnie was with us, the extra money that they've had come in, and she was able to explain some of that with grants for fixtures that they required. But as I understand it, we had 100 people or 100 families coming to the food bank from Prescott, and we have been giving $4,000, if memory serves me correctly, towards the food bank. We have an extra 65 families coming to Prescott now. And if you were to take 65% of $4,000 and add that on to the $4,000, that doesn't add up to an extra $7,000. I have no problem if we have an extra 65 people in town adding to the figure that we give them, but I don't believe the figures that they're giving us add up to an extra $7,000 donation.
I've got to admit, I've got a little, and I don't quite understand the numbers either that Bonnie presented entirely with the 786 from Prescott, and what was the total, 1186 or something like that, or 11. we made up a significant portion of that. But then when she did mention at the asking of council, how many came from Edwardsburg Cardinal and Augusta, and Bonnie said it's a steady 20 to 25, I think, from Augusta. And she mentioned, I think it was just last month's number though, but correct me if 53 from Cardinal and 9 for Spencerville. So that's, 62 plus 25. I don't know if that would be considered an average month in the townships, but when you add that up, unless I'm really not understanding what Bonnie presented, that would be 984 to 1,044 from the townships per year, which is actually more than the number from Prescott. And it also doesn't add up to the total number of cases. So again, I don't like challenging anybody on this stuff, especially when it comes to a food bank. And I'll be blunt about this. I will support, I am happy to support the 7,000 or another number, but I'm not looking back, I'm looking forward. I think next year is going to be horrific for food banks. And I think it's going to be a very, very difficult, challenging time. And, but I do think, and we've got to make it very clear that they've got to find some funding from the townships as well, and not just come back to us on this all the time. There's got to be just a little more balance, especially if those numbers are monthly averages. But Bonnie certainly didn't communicate as if that was a large number, the 62 from Edwardsburg Cardinal and the 2025 from Augusta. And that was monthly, I believe she did say. I'm correct. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I wrote down at the time. So that's where I have an issue with that. But like I said, I would still support it in this one incidence, simply because I think next year is going to be extraordinarily challenging for a whole lot of people with the inflation rate going up and the cost of food skyrocketing. So anyways, that's just my take on it. Whatever everybody else thinks, or if anyone wants to propose a number or anything like that. Is there a comfort level for a common number here? Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you. I think it's important that we do support them. I'm understanding that 7,000 is a lot of extra, and but you know what? You're right. The food prices are going up. The meat's going up. There is still people struggling in our community. So, I'd be more comfortable of maybe 3,500, half of that. So, I would propose a motion to give the food bank the $3,500.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Young, are you?
Yes, I'd second the motion.
Okay, so we do have the motion on the floor. Thank you very much, Councillor Burton, Councillor Young, for the motion for 3,500. Any discussion on that motion before I call the question? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And the second one is the fetal alcohol group. And if someone can remind me, what was their funding request again? Was it 500 or 1,000?
$1,000.
1,000. Valuable group. Obviously, only 4 in Prescott from the numbers that Mr. Moore provided. Throw it out there. Anyone have a motion to make or any suggestions in terms of direction on this one? Councillor Jansman?
The monetary amount of $1,000 doesn't bother me, despite that it's only 4 families, because it will be. I liked just as much, if not more, though, his plea to have an awareness, a partnership in the town of Prescott with perhaps a staff link or whatever in moving forward for them. So if that could be somehow attached to whatever monetary number we come up with, be it 1,000 or not, I think that would be a nice idea.
Are you willing to provide a motion to that effect, Councillor Jansman? I will note also that if we do this, we're under the original budget figure as well.
Exactly, which is kind of nice.
So
it keeps it clean, right? Yes, I would be willing to, Brett. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Shankar, please. Any further discussion on that amount? And Mr. Armstrong, can we include communications on that to follow up what Teresa mentioned, to offer that additional support? Getting into the ground floor with an organization like this could be very valuable as well, because it's good foundational funding for them. And this is another one that I think is going to be maybe only 4 now, but I think this is going to grow in the years to come, as we've seen from some of the, quite frankly, frightening numbers on coming out of addictions and overdoses and so forth in the area. So any further discussion on this? With that, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. So we come in at just under the budget as well. We got $100 left over. So great. Always good we can keep the budget there. So I think we're through this evening, with the exception of 16 notices of motion. I'll call for that, but I know Councillor Young has a notice of motion. And Ray, if you want to read that, and then we'll discuss possibly waiving that this evening to look at this right now.
Or just want me to verbalize what the intent of the motion is?
It'd be great to have the motion if you can put it in something, because then we can just wait and then discuss it directly without having to go back to formulate the wording.
Okay. Whereas the council of the town of Prescott desires to honor Ms. Candy Alexander for her contributions to the community. And whereas Candy Alexander has been an active member of our community through her involvement with Royal Canadian Legion Branch 97, the South Grenville Food Bank, and the Prescott Rotary Club. And whereas Candy Alexander was an integral part of the fundraising and building of the Rotary Pavilion in Prescott, continued to sell fundraising bricks for the pavilion. And therefore be it resolved that the corporation of the town of Prescott enacts the following: that a dedication plaque be erected at the pavilion known as the Rotary Pavilion to honor Candy Alexander for her contribution to building this pavilion.
So that's the topic we're discussing this evening. And what we have done in the recent past, we've waived the rules of procedure. I did want to make sure we had that out first. But if everyone's comfortable with this, the motion would be that the rules of procedure be suspended to allow for council to consider this motion regarding the dedication of the Rotary Pavilion to honor Candy Alexander. So if everyone's okay with the initial part of it, we could waive the rules of procedure and can contemplate this tonight. Councillor McConnell, you had your hand up a moment ago. Are you willing to make that motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion, but I was going to ask for an amendment to Ray's idea there. He listed the Rotary, he listed the Legion, and I think he may have listed something else. I forget, but I'd like to see the curling club, Prescott Curling Club, added onto that list. Candy was on the board of the curling club for years and was in charge of rentals, and that place had never been rented out to the extent that it was when she was in charge of it. She had school kids coming in. It was like the Hams, you know, she was all over the place looking for, so if Ray would be all right with adding the Prescott Curling Center to that, I'd be very happy to move that motion.
Certainly. So we'll deal with the procedural aspect first. So Councillor McConnell, you're happy to move that. I think I saw Councillor Ostrander's hand up. Mike, are you okay to second that?
I am.
Rules. Thank you, sir. So we'll vote on that now. All those in favor of waiving the rules of procedure in this incident. All in favor. So the actual motion, and Ray, you did mention, so adding the curling club, the only thing and I apologize if you did have this in there, was any mention of her teaching career in there?
No, nothing at all.
I would suggest we add her as add note of her long teaching career, because I've had a few people mention that to me actually after she passed, that she's being remembered, and rightly so, for all her volunteer work with the Legion, Curling Club, Shakespeare, and so forth. But that was her passion for decades. So if we could add that, I think that would be fitting as well.
I'm sure Ms. Veldkamp can deal with that. No problem at all. I'd like to speak a little bit about it, Brett.
Certainly.
The Rotary Pavilion was conceived back in 2005 and finished in 2006, I believe it was. The fundraising was barbecues, selling the bricks, selling hams, things like that, that raised the money. And in addition to all her hard work raising money, she did make a substantial financial commitment to the project. And the project, I looked at a few bills that I had copies of, but I'm going to say it was over $30,000 easily. I think the cement in the ground to hold it down was in the $20,000 range without anything else. Candy was always working for the benefit of the community and the Rotary Club and other projects that she loved. As a matter of fact, just a few weeks before she passed away in November 11th, she still installed another 20 bricks into the floor of the pavilion. So I took it upon myself to reach out to some Rotarians from that era, and all of them were very, very supportive of this idea. I assured them it would be called forever the Rotarian Pavilion, built back in the 2005 and renamed to honor the life and the achievements of Candy Alexander. So that's the intent of my motion. And as I read it before, I would be happy to move that, Brett. Perhaps former Rotarian Gauri Shankar would be interested in seconding it, but I can assure you all members of Rotary were very, very pleased with this idea.
Gauri, you happy to second that?
I'd be glad to second it. I think it's a great idea, and it's a great honor. It's a good way to remember Candy. Ray's right. She was always doing something for Rotary and for the town. So I think this will be a great acknowledgement of her volunteerism in the town. Thank you.
You're right.
Can I add one more thing, Brett, a little humor? My dear friend Barry Loshway, who we lost way too early, said once, if you're at a meeting or you're in a group somewhere and you see Candy Alexander on a laser line toward you, just reach for your wallet, because she's looking to sell you a ticket or a brick or a ham or something. So there was great camaraderie in the Rotary Club at that time. Barry was one of the instigators of the pavilion as well. And I'm sure he'd be proud of this whole thing.
Absolutely. Any other comments anyone would like to make this evening? Just wanted to say I couldn't support it more when Ray mentioned it. I mean, it's a perfect way to pay tribute to Candy. It's still awful. It's impossible to believe she's gone. Actually, it's still a shock. She did so much for the town. And Ray, when we mentioned that bit about the Candy coming at you, I remember all those days at the Legion, at our Rotary meetings. I mean, she always had a book of something ready to sell, and you always had to make sure you went to any event and throw a 20 and make sure you had a 20 on you, because you'd be hit up before the end of the night. And boy, she's going to be missed. She did a lot, and what she did for that amphitheater down there is with the bricks and raising money, and that donation she made, which was sizable as well. She's one in a million. She's really going to be missed.
And don't forget the landscaping she did for the amphitheater.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other story. That's one of the funny ones as well too. But You had to love her. She always had her heart in the right place, no matter what came out of it. And she wore her heart in her sleeve. That's the other thing. She really, really cared, and you could see it in everything she did, and just the way she was. So this is a very fitting tribute. So we'll be looking at essentially we're just going to change the signage down there. Is that's essentially the plan for?
That's right.
So if we could so bring back the design for the new sign, I guess, just so we can take a look at it before it goes in. I think that's probably good. Ray, you can take a look at it for us as well. And
Yeah.
just
will
make
be in-
sure it's
It can be installed in the new year after we've had time to design it.
sure. So any further comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Ray, so much for bringing that forward. Really fitting tribute. So that takes us to item 17, Mayor's proclamations. Nothing tonight, nothing in closed session. So nothing formally on 18 or 19. 20s are confirming bylaw. That is 52-2021. Recommendation reads that bylaw 52-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on December 6th, 2021 be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Can I ask for a mover, please? Moved by Councilor Ostrander, seconded by Councilor Shankar. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, everyone. And item 21, adjournment. Can I have a motion for adjournment, please? Moved by Councilor Shankar, seconded by Councilor Burton. All in favor? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. I guess we'll see everybody back here for our last meeting of 2021 next week, December 13th. Take care. Have a great week, and all the best to all those watching.